Hey y'all, it's Necey Dixon. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, welcome. If you are returning, y'all, welcome back. Okay, so today is usually brunch for Necey, but it's definitely giving all breakfast vibes. I have something to go do today, quite early, and it's a requirement of my mother. So I gotta hurry up. But you know what I could have done? I could have pre-recorded this and premiered it, but I really like the interaction that we have on Sundays. Last Monday we had a real good time because I let y'all call in. Oh my gosh, that was so fun. And low key, since we don't have Portia's Family Matters anymore. We don't have Portia's Family Matters at all anymore. I was thinking we can do the live review today for Ready to Love. And then tomorrow evening, probably around 5:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we can do another call in because I had too much fun with y'all. So if that's something y'all want to do, be sure to turn on your notification bell so you can see whenever I get ready to do a subscriber call in. And also let me know in the comments, because if y'all ain't trying to call in, I ain't trying to sit on the line tomorrow and be like, where y'all at, okay? So again, y'all, thanks for joining early. Y'all go ahead and tell me exactly where y'all are watching from, because it would be nice to know where my Sunday, brunch squad is watching from, because I usually go live probably like 1 Central Standard Time, 11. It just depends, but it's 9:30 over here, okay? So let me say what's up to the chat. Naturally Mar, hey, Alicia, Shell, Tiffany, Tasha, Detroit, East Coast. Okay. I was hoping some of y'all would be tuning in from the East Coast, so it wasn't like super duper early. Visual Taste, Jasmine, Tiffany. Hey J Dub, what's up, Fave? Six Figure Sister. Come on, girl. Okay. But yeah, okay. Florida, Georgia, Maryland, NYC. All right. Well, y'all, I say it's time we get into Ready to Love. Today, on Brunch Squad, I usually do like Ladies Who List, and then I do Ready to Love immediately after. But I didn't have time to watch Ladies Who List last night, so I figured I would just go ahead and get to the good stuff, so wasn't nobody gonna have to wait. I know some of y'all who be trying to skip my Ladies Who List portion, y'all probably gonna show up late and be like, "What? I didn't know. You should have told me." No, you got to stay on Ready, okay? So y'all give me a hot second. I forgot to change my settings on this video. Give me a hot second. But while we do that, y'all go ahead in the chat. Give me like 10, 15 seconds. Let me know what y'all thought about part 2 reunion of Ready to Love. In my opinion, it was quite lackluster. We gonna talk about Corey and those tears. We gonna talk about Cilia, who actually sat through an entire segment while her mama was in the hospital, but whenever shit wasn't about her, she didn't want to be there for it. Y'all tell me what y'all peep, and go ahead and rate reunion part 2 on a scale of 1 to 10. About 5 more seconds. I'm gonna be right there. Hold on. All right, we are back. Let me see what y'all said. Okay. Part 2 reunion to me was dead, definitely. Kay says Detroit, pointless, 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. J Dub says 4. Shell says 3. Yashika says 3. Trixie says 3. I think I'm gonna have to side with y'all and say 3, because they definitely should have flipped part 1 and part 2. It was just like, for what? For what? Ooh, I'm just saying it's 0. Naturally Mar, ready to leave. All the clowns and peaches for Naeem. Say it again, okay? 5. Nikki, that's the highest I've seen. Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead and say it was a 3. But one thing I want to call out is I think that the host did a pretty decent job, didn't y'all? What they say her name was Tanika, I believe. But I think she did a pretty good job holding people accountable, asking the questions she should have asked, and it felt like her and Zadia were getting a little bit cute with each other for a hot second. Tell me if y'all noticed that because it was awkward. She was like, "You got Nym, and she got Cornelius. Congratulations." I was like, "What? Come on, Tanika Ray." I thought she did pretty decent. And I felt like she also, JW says Tanika Ray never let the drama play out. She didn't, but I think she tried to make sure that the stage made room for dialogue because honestly, the drama that would have played out, it wasn't going to go anywhere. Not anywhere different from what we had seen throughout the season. So I think she did a good job of getting to the point, and she knew a lot about the show. So now this comment from Issa Virgo, they say they gave all the tea to Little Black Book on YouTube. Say it again. Okay. Speaking of, and we'll talk about that a little bit. There's a video that I saw yesterday, and Little Black Book uploaded it. It was Courtney, Simone from the previous season, the one who's with Rashid now, and another girl. The girl claims that she was Cornelius's mistress. And I'm laughing because this entire season, y'all, I always felt like Cornelius was not given that he was into women's, in my opinion. So to hear that Cornelius is a playboy, to me, was hilarious. What the woman also spoke about, and again, you can check out the full video on Little Black Book channel. But what the woman also spoke about was that he's not celibate. She kept saying celibate. He's not celibate, okay? She said it was popping. I was like, oh. She said it was popping. But then probably like 5 minutes after she said that the peen was popping, she then said that it was about to get to the point of sex, but then she stopped it. So I feel like it was a lot of inconsistencies in the interview, or it was like a live conversation, because apparently she is friends with Courtney and friends with Corey, the clown. So I don't know. It was just some things that was real inconsistent, in my opinion. There were pictures of her on a 3-day vacation with Cornelius. She claimed that she was in the industry and could get him on red carpets and to meet people and all of that. She said that her and Cornelius stayed in the same hotel room for 3 days straight in the same bed. It was just odd to me. On one hand, she said Cornelius told her that he was single and that the show was fake. But then on the other hand, he told her that he wanted to wait to break off the relationship with Camille because he was concerned for what she may do to retaliate. So I'm like, hold on, girl. And we might have to do a whole video on this, okay? We probably can, because there's something to talk about, maybe tomorrow. But on one hand, I'm like, girl, you believed him when he said the show was fake, but how is it possible that now that the show is over, you're giving him time to end this fake relationship because Camille might retaliate? Like, it sounds to me like the math's not math thing. It definitely sounds to me like they both probably were dating each other because of the clout potential. She knew people from red carpets, and she knew he was on Ready to Love. So it just didn't sound right to me. You knew he was still involved with Camille, yet you allowed him to tell you that the show was fake. I don't know. It was weird. Yes, Tasha said the girl kept coming so negatively at Camille. The other thing that I felt was really weird was whenever she first started the interview, she said that she believed him to be single. And then towards the mid part of the interview, she says that Camille was calling him while they were in New York. And he was lying to Camille about them staying the night together in the hotel. He presented this New York trip to Camille as if it was a business trip, and they went down there, stayed in separate rooms in order to network. So I don't know. One thing is for sure, I feel like Cornelius is a playboy. He's not celibate, apparently. And she also said that the ex-girlfriend that we saw on the show was his real life ex-girlfriend. And they were praying because they felt nervous or afraid of what Camille may do. I think we could talk about it in detail tomorrow, but I definitely saw a lot of inconsistencies. I think both of them are involved with each other for clout, but we can go ahead and get to that tomorrow. So for today, y'all, subscribe, hit the like button, turn on your notification bell. Let's get into Ready to Love, okay? So this was reunion part 2, and the episode the episode starts out with everybody clearing up whether or not they heard Camille say, I'll F y'all up. Y'all, the part 1 was the best part of the reunion. I don't even know why y'all came back this way for part 2. Walter finally got his segment. His segment was supposed to be in part 1, but Brown Girl Squad took over. So Tasia storms off, okay? Tasia storms off because she's not getting any attention. And I'm just like, girl. She said, this is so ghetto. This is so ghetto. I mean, people had to take off from their real lives. My mama in the hospital. Like I said last week, y'all, I had to give Tasia her own slide because she wanted attention. Number 1, I hope your mother's okay. Number 2, Shiloh wasn't there. Why couldn't you be there? Number 3, you stormed off the stage talking about your mama was in the hospital, but then sat there through an entire segment to prove to people that somebody actually liked you. And when we get to somebody, I'm talking about Corey. Corey liked everybody. Tasia, that's not a flex. That's not a flex, okay? You should have ran off that stage, called yourself an Uber, and been waiting outside that hospital because you said that you couldn't go into the hospital because of COVID restrictions. You should have been doing whatever you should have been doing at that moment to be there on what you could focus on, which was obviously not other people. But as soon as the segment got to about you, you were ready to talk about it. Everything was ghetto before when it was about Brown Girl Squad in the main conversation of the whole season. But when it got to you, you allowed stuff to get ghetto as well. I'm like, Tasia, this is why. This is exactly why. The pick me of it all is ridiculous. Tasia was a pick me, in my opinion. And I think she was just upset because she had the personality type that she just floated in the middle. Like she said, she wasn't everybody's favorite. She wasn't their least favorite. She talked about work all the time. She was thick. She often talked about her Southern roots and how she wanted to be a traditional ass wife. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like, those are the things that usually get you chosen, and it just didn't work for you this season. So now, y'all, we're gonna talk about her in a second. But before Tanika moved on, Tanika was like, I just want you and Sabrina to squash the beef. And Zadia said, but there's one thing I do want to highlight. I want to highlight our connection. Because yes, this is why I chose him. And yeah, we're good. Okay. What are you trying to convince us? Have Nym sit there on mute, okay, this whole time. It seems to me, y'all, even in part 2, this is what was weird to me. Part 2, Nym didn't say anything of value, really, at all. All he sat there and did was be Zadia's yes man, Camille's yes man. And I'm like, Nym, the only time we heard you talk is when it was dealing with women's business. Stay your ass out of women's business, Patricia. Like Nene Leakes was saying. Why? Why is it that this pretty much the whole season, we never heard Nym speak besides really when his ex-girlfriend came on the show? And that was the only time I found out that he was like in tech or supposedly was good with his money or something like that. And he liked big booty girls. That was the only time we found out anything about this man. Then he continues to be on mute for the rest of the season. And the only time this man speaks up is when it's involving women's business. Trust, Nym. Camille and Zadia have big enough mouthpieces to hold the fort down to argue whatever Brown Girl Squad Instagram page it requires, okay? You didn't have to say nothing. You should have sat there like Cornelius, eyes bulging out your head, because there's things that you want to say, that you want to get off your chest, but you can't really get it off your chest because you've already, try to convince everybody that you in love with Miss Parker, Professor Ogilvy. So, Nym, you should have done the same thing. You should have just sat there and looked down at the ground like you are in this frame right here, because it definitely was giving Peter Thomas 2.0. Kay says Zadia thought that her and Nym was going to have a moment. Right. She just didn't want to seem like she went home empty-handed like she thought Aisha would. Facts. She wanted to have a moment. But no, you and Nym are not a moment. Zadia, let this be a lesson, okay? Nobody wanted to give you and Nym a segment. The only segments they wanted to talk about was your negativity on the show and you pointing your finger on Dante's nose. Take a second and think about that. So no, we're not going to give you and Nym a second. If you want to go ahead and, wrap it up and say y'all are doing great and that's why you chose him, you didn't choose him because you didn't make it to the end. Both of y'all went home. And like Sydney said, Nym, you were actually voted off. Okay? Y'all didn't make it to the end. So who cares what y'all are doing? You stirred up all the drama and that's what you're known for. And that's what we're going to talk to you about. So next, y'all, Walter finally gets his segment after, he's been trying to get his segment this whole time. But the Brown Girl Squad is taking over. And they showed the flashback of his two top picks, which was Mew Mean and Sabrina. Sabrina and him always had a connection from the beginning. Mew Mean was his dark horse. And y'all, I already told y'all how I felt about that. I always felt like he probably was going to choose Sabrina at the end anyway, because let's be real. We saw Walter's ex. We saw the fingernails. Walter didn't have no issue with Sabrina being a retired stripper. But what he did have an issue with was if he decided to choose Mew Mean, they were not going to have sex. So we already knew he was going to choose Sabrina. Mew Mean knew that as well, right? So that's basically why she ended the relationship with him early, because she was trying to run away from rejection and then ended up dealing with another type of rejection with Frank. So anyway, they showed the flashback of him choosing Sabrina and Sabrina saying, you always make me feel like number two. For that reason, no, we need to end the journey here. Now, Walter, he says that he was surprised that she ended it. He said he wasn't upset with her decision, but he felt like he was caught off guard. Now, listen, I understand the argument they were trying to make on stage. The argument that everybody was trying to make on stage was, Sabrina, you were always before Mew Mean. How does that make you number two? That's not possible. Y'all, I don't know why people were actually thinking that this was hard to grasp. Sabrina says that outside of the show, he never hit her up. So it's not really saying much for him to say, I chose you over Mew Mean. What does that mean for real life? She's number two to something. It doesn't have to be Mew Mean. So I'm like, it's fairly simple math to me. Y'all tell me if y'all felt the same way. I actually believe that Walter was not present in their relationship outside of the show. He's a city boy, okay? Walter seems like the type of dude who, and this is how he reminds me of Joel. Joel is just a little less, sophisticated with his playboyness. Walter presents himself to be this very sophisticated, fixed up dude, but he told us in the beginning that he had a past. We also saw from his ex that the type of women who he is interested in is much different than the way that he presents himself to us. So Walter can be on the show and slick talk and do all this stuff, but it's not saying anything. So he just felt like he was taken off guard, and he wished that she would have had that discussion with him before they got to that moment. And Sabrina says, that's crazy, because if you would have been communicating with me the whole time, you would have known. Yes, you would have known if you would have been communicating with her the whole time. You didn't take the relationship seriously. You only counted y'all's interactions that y'all had when the cameras were around, and that's what you based it off of. But Sabrina was actually looking for something real where Walter was not. So I don't feel bad for this man at all. that he was taken aback or taken off guard, because that's just what happens when you're not consistently trying to create these real relationships. And like I told y'all in my finale review, kudos to Sabrina, because majority of women do not come on the show and do this. Majority of the women are pick-me's, and they try to get chosen until the very end, similar to Mumin. Mumin is a very sweet girl, but she was absolutely a pick-me. You knew Frank barely wanted you. You knew it was the toss of a damn quarter for Frank to decide if he was going to be with you or be with Sydney. And for that reason, I would have self-eliminated. This was a season of self-elimination. And Mumin, that's why you ended up in the situation that you were in, rather than saying, thanks, but no thanks. Okay. We made it to the end. Sydney's fulfilled, but I choose me. So shout out to Sabrina for this whole interaction. And Sabrina also mentions how she thinks that she's too old for Walter. Walter then says that, it has nothing to do with age. I like Sabrina, but I want kids. So one thing that finally came out is this whole season, we were thinking that Sabrina did not want to have any more kids. But apparently she told Walter in a different conversation that she would be open to kids if that's what he wanted. So I'm just like, okay. So anyway, Walter says that they still have a connection. Hey, Sam, thank you. Walter says that they still have a connection. He says that even whenever they saw each other, whenever they both walked into the building, they locked eyes and they ended up hugging it out. So while that segment ended real cute, y'all, in my opinion, this relationship ain't gonna go nowhere. Sabrina, keep smiling at that man. Eventually I feel like Walter is the type of dude you're gonna have to cut off, because he's a fair weather dude. Y'all know what I mean by that. Where it's like they only come around like randomly, they're not consistent, and sometimes it's always some sort of chaos whenever y'all fall out. And then you be good, you be living your life for a little bit, and then he want to pop back up like nothing ever happened. Like, I ain't talked to you in 3, 4, 5 months. I done had new jobs. I done this. I done done that, and you want to pop up like, we supposed to go back to how we was 6 months ago. Sabrina, y'all may have that connection like he said, but eventually I feel like you are going to have to cut him 100% off, like block his number, because he likes to play games. So no, I don't feel bad at all that he was caught off guard. I'm just like, J-Dub, you're not lying. J-Dub says Sabrina's playing with us kids at 46. Women are still having kids later and later, but honestly, open to the idea of having kids at 46 after you firmly told us that you were done having children. Why would you all of a sudden be open and you are over the midpoint of your 40s? Interesting. It sounded to me like she probably just had a moment to where she really wanted to get chose, okay? She really did, but I don't think that was going to happen. So now, y'all, let us get into Cornelius. Y'all know, whenever we got into Cornelius, I low-key was annoyed, because I'm like, didn't we just spend the first half of this show talking about Aladdin? He looked a mess. Camille was twitching like she was off something. Camille was twitching. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Okay, Lisa says Sabrina said in an interview it wasn't his ex. Okay, that definitely makes sense, because I was like, no. So anyway, we talking about, and again, let me call out, thank you for the super chat. But Camille was twitching. I'm like, it's really something wrong with this woman. And I think that it's overlooked because of her beauty. It's overlooked because of her beauty and her booty. For sure. I think that's why she lasted as long as she did on the show. She definitely had one of those weird ass personalities. It was another girl on the last season that was just like her, and I can't remember her name. She was tall, light-skinned, short hair, real awkward looking, very blunt, said everything that came in her mouth, her mind. And she was eliminated fairly quickly. I cannot remember her name. Either way it goes, Camille's getting a pass because, yes, J-Dub, thank you, Ida. I didn't think anybody was going to get that. Ida, yes. Trixie, Tracy, yes. Camille reminds me of Ida so much as far as personality. She's awkward. She says things that makes people uncomfortable, but she means every bit of what she's saying. The only reason why Camille made it so far was because she's considered pretty, whereas Ida was kind of funny looking. Let's be real. Another reason why Camille made it so far was because Cornelius needed somebody to latch onto that wasn't gonna require him to lay down the pen. But apparently he laying it down. Who knows? Um, so yeah, I don't know. So they go back to the flashback or the hard decision between Courtney and Camille, and they're showing all these aggressive ass clips of Courtney, low key talking like a dude, like if I want it, I'm gonna go after she rubbing on his inner thigh and everything. And what I feel like was interesting was during this interview, and again, we can talk about it tomorrow. During this interview, Courtney, and I'm talking about something on Instagram outside of the show, Courtney says that Cornelius was coming to her with that energy. She said that she was only reciprocating what he was showing her. So if that's true, then he must have been overly sexual with her as well, and it must have been an edit. But low key, I don't believe it. Low key, I think he sat there quiet and timid this whole time, and Courtney chased him. He probably was unattracted to that because he definitely said during the show he needed a woman with a little bit more discernment, a little bit more self-control, and it wasn't going to be Courtney. So Courtney goes home in the flashback, and they talk about how she felt about waiting for sex before marriage or not. And she basically said, as far as her preference, she's not going to wait 2 years potentially to see what it's hitting for. And she says, lots of people have preferences and there's nothing wrong with that. So, you know what? I'm like, you're absolutely right. Okay. But Cornelius is a damn lie, according to this Instagram interview. So Courtney, she says that, it's beautiful that Camille and Cornelius have found a way to work things out and that they're a beautiful couple. Girl, that was just a cute way to tie it up and let Camille know you ain't got no beef with her. That was a cute way to protect yourself from her finding your address online and popping up at your house, or popping 3 out of 4 of your tires, or laying frozen fish in the back of your car, and then you riding around wondering why your car smelling like fish because this girl is blackmailing you and harassing you. That was just your way of trying to make sure she knew that there was no beef. Okay. So it's not beautiful what Camille and Cornelius has going on, but I see what you were trying to do, Courtney. So as soon as Courtney started saying that, she was happy for them, Camille stops. She stops doing all this and twitching and looking crazy. And then all of a sudden she calms down and she's smiling. I had to zoom in on this. It was awkward, y'all. It was very weird. It was very weird. She was really real life twitching, and it wasn't theatrics. She was doing it genuinely because she was uncomfortable with her talking about Cornelius. Did y'all also notice that throughout all the breaks, she would be wiping Cornelius's face like he was a damn child? That's a grown man. That's a grown man. But you're cherishing him like he's some precious item. Y'all need some fucking therapy. I'm sorry. So now let's go ahead and get into Corey. Now, if y'all have been watching my reviews for quite some time, and if you haven't and you still not subscribed, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. But if y'all been watching my reviews for quite some time, y'all remember one of my thumbnails was Troy ran so Corey could walk. Corey was a fool. Corey was a clown. I think he actually got the first honorary class clown mask for this season. And I don't feel bad about it one bit at all. Corey was crying. And I have to tell y'all how I feel about that scene. There were some people on stage that had sympathy for him. And quite honestly, if Courtney wouldn't have spoken up and said how she truly felt, I don't think Mumine would have either. I think Mumine would have lied and sat there and act like she felt bad for him. So they show his whole flashback, how he is going around from woman to woman and saying the same thing, playing the same games. He in charm school, clown, player type stuff, and he looks a fool. So there's a never before seen footage, this second picture right here, where he's crying. And they're asking him, why do you do this with all these women? Why are you playing games? And he starts crying. I guess in some way, I'm always seeking approval from these women because I want someone to look at me the way that my mother looks at my dad. Now, I do think that there's a little bit of truth to that. But I also feel like Corey is wired differently. And this is consistent with what I told y'all the first time we met this man. I feel like Corey is wired differently than the majority of people. Corey has a way to separate emotion from action. I'm not understanding how you can copy paste interactions with other humans when your interactions should be organic. It's definitely something interesting about this man, and they honestly felt bad for him. But I don't think anybody thought what he was doing was genuine. I think when Sabrina said that he doesn't think how we think, J-Dub says remedial. I was getting that low key. Not that I thought he was remedial, but when Sabrina explained, Corey is a sweet man. Corey thinks differently than we do. She then, to me, put him in like a special category of people. He thinks differently. His tests need to be written in a different format. That's what she was giving me when she said that. And I think that might be on par. I think that his emotions are literally just, I think he's just acting. I think he's like displaying emotion rather than really giving us emotions. But what he says about his parents, I believe is true. So, in my opinion, y'all, Cornelius is lame. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows Corey. Cornelius too, shit. But everybody knows Corey is lame. Now, my thing is, if he is goofy like this now, imagine him being in his early 20s, no body weight before he started getting that six pack as he claims. Imagine him in his early 20s and then lame. So it had to be much worse than what we're looking at right now. And for that reason, yes, you probably are always seeking approval from women. And you do this copy paste thing because you feel like you have nothing else to give. Tanisha, I'm with you 100%. Tanisha says it's very calculated and scary, unauthentic. Yes, it is. Everything about this man is calculated to me, even from when he cried on screen to where he cried on the reunion stage. And I could not feel bad for him. I couldn't feel bad for him at all. So he said he goes all out to try to make a woman feel special, and one day someone is going to accept it. Okay, that's fine. But my thing is, why is it that you treat every woman the same way rather than trying to find one special woman? This dude has a lot of insecurities. He's probably dealt with a lot of clowning. He's probably been called a clown all his life. A lot of rejection, and he's only mirroring what he's seen other people do successfully. But I feel like he is throwing out a bunch of fishing rods. The more rods you throw out, the more possibility of, bringing home some fish you're gonna have. And that's what he's doing. And it's awkward because he's doing this with human relationships. So I didn't feel bad for him. Now, Courtney, they asked Courtney, did you feel any differently whenever you saw him crying? And Courtney says, no, I feel the same. She says, I just feel like it was all a game. And when he was crying, you can see Mumin sit there and kind of start to feel bad for him. Then all of a sudden she sits there and she has this awkward look on her face and she's just stuck. Y'all see her in this picture right here. She's just stuck. And then after Courtney says how she feels, Mumin then says that she didn't feel special. He apologizes for what he did, and then they move on from there. He is different. This man is wired differently. And what Sabrina said is consistent with exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, he's wired differently. His tests are probably written in a different format, and that's okay. That's okay. But I just don't see it happening for you, Corey, for sure. Mari says Corey is definitely a dude that will go to one of those pickup dates, workshops these dudes be hosting. Fags. Oh, good comment. Cassandra says, look how they let him get away with all the touching on their bodies. He definitely was popping people's bubbles. He was kind of overstepping people's space, especially like the first day. Remember whenever he walked up to Sabrina and was like, do you find me attractive? Do you find me attractive? And what she said, do you find me attractive? Like, you were popping her bubble all up in her face. And I'm just like, that's awkward. Then let's not forget how he sat there and all of a sudden hunched Mumin on that tree where he said he carved their name in it because he thought it was romantic. No, it's weird. It's weird. Corey is living in a fantasy land. He is trying to see things that he's seen in movies, and that's not real life. And that's how I can tell y'all that I feel like he doesn't have the same ability to display authentic emotion. He's literally just repeating what he has seen done before. It's very robotic and it's weird. Okay. Also, yes, Naturally Mar. Also groping Tasia. Absolutely. Absolutely. He did. He hunched her on that tree, and I was like, nope. Yup. Mumin was weird for letting him continue on that log. And that's the day that I decided she was a pick-me. That's the day. So now, y'all, we're gonna move on from one clown to, let's go ahead and talk about Tasia, because she definitely was on some clown shit this reunion. So they show her flashback of her entire journey on the show. And episode 1, she is upset. They're like, Tasia, you're in the bottom. She goes, I got 5 numbers. How am I in the bottom? Why y'all put me in the bottom? So they show her whole flashback. The whole time she was on the show, in my opinion, she looked very salty. They showed that scene. They showed the scene with her on that triple date with Shiloh. You look bitter there, acting like people were trying to overtalk you. No, people weren't trying to overtalk you. You just weren't interesting enough. Thank you for the super chat, Tasha. She says, Corey and Camille will pull any theatrics just to be talked about. They don't care if it's good or bad. They want to be the topic of conversation. #cloud. Absolutely. And that's the thing. That's that unauthenticity that they both have. And I feel like those are dangerous characteristics to be around. People who lack like any sort of humanity to them. Like, how do you not have any type of emotional wiring in you? And I often come and talk to y'all about things logically, but there has to be a balance to things. And with them, they just show, they display emotions. It's not true. So it's just very weird to me. Hey, Cassandra, shout out to you. She's officially a part of the #Necey Hive. Welcome. So, okay, let's go ahead and get into Cecilia. Weird flex. This whole thing was a weird flex for me. So she starts out the conversation and she's like, God, this is so funny. You know, I wasn't at the top. I wasn't in the bottom. I literally was just floating. And to me, I felt like she was on the defense because she wanted to make it clear that she wasn't at the bottom. She wanted to make it clear that she just wasn't number one and that she was well liked. I think she wanted to make a point to the audience that she was liked by men. I don't care, Tasia. You didn't have a storyline. You were not a main character on this show. You don't have to prove to the audience that the men liked you. You have qualities, I told you, that were very likable. You're thick. You from Chicago, but you have a Southern background. You want to be a traditional wife. You're very educated and you own your own business and tech. You have likable qualities. I believe that men like you. They just didn't like you on this show. So what are you trying to prove to us? Hey, Shell. Happy birthday. So, yeah, I'm like, what are you trying to prove to us? And yes, Tasha, the bickering was ghetto, but you demanding Corey to explain that you were a part of the yes, it was all ghetto. So she says, okay, good. I've been waiting on Corey to tell the truth. And they're like, what are you telling the truth about? And she goes, violence button. Go ahead and tell the truth, Corey. Go ahead and tell everyone what was going on. Go ahead and tell everybody that I was a part. And Corey's sitting there stuttering over his words. He can't get around to bullshit fast enough. So all of a sudden she says, fine, let me say it for you. So this whole love triangle that he had between Mumin and Courtney, I was in that too. He texted me and he wanted me to meet his parents as well. Is that a flex? I'm just like, girl. And this is where you almost look lamer than Corey. You do look lamer than Corey. You do. I can say that with 100% confidence because anybody who wanted to make a point and sit on this stage and get clout off of being chosen by Corey, girl, Corey was choosing everybody. Corey was choosing everybody and they mama, sister, cousin who came on the show. Corey was choosing the exes that came on the show. Corey was taking notes and delivering flowers to different people on this show. You're not special, okay? And I don't want you to think that this news of you dating Corey makes you any more special than what you were on the show. I wish that it was something that was more interesting, but this was absolutely some clown shit to try to get a flex off of Corey. So anyway, Corey says that he had to come to her defense multiple times because the men on the show would often talk down on her. Walter and Phil, they both speak up, and then they finally have to say, hey, you never had to defend her. She was well liked. And to me, I feel like that was a better look than trying to get a look off of Corey. Tasia, I wouldn't put it past you that you were well liked. Like I said, I just named all these good qualities about you. You were on the show for a long time, even though we didn't see you making any connections. And that to me was enough for me to know that they did like you. They just didn't like you as much as the other women. And that's not different than what we saw on TV. So please don't get a flex off of Corey. That was clownery. So anyway, she says that she's vaxxed and waxed and she's ready to explore the city. So she's talking to us about all this vaxxed and waxed stuff. But the earlier segment was ghetto. Your mom is in the hospital and you don't have time for this. But you have time to try to pull a flex on Corey and to tell us that you're vaxxed and waxed. Make it make sense to see you. So now, y'all, we get into Zadia. Zadia did a good job of not carrying on conversation where she didn't want to carry it on. She did a good job of deflecting and deading shit. So basically, they show Zadia's journey on the show, which was Dante versus Nym. And Zadia immediately apologizes for the nose tap that she did to Dante. And she says that she should have never touched him. She should have walked out that restaurant and kept it pushing. And what she did was wrong. Yes, I'm glad that you can admit to you physically being in the wrong when it came to Dante. But when it came to being respectful to the other women on the show, you didn't want to take responsibility for that. So she knew that the only thing that they were going to drag her to the ground for, yes, B Stokes. She knew the only thing that they were going to drag her to the ground for was the way that she behaved with Dante. So that's why she immediately apologized for it. So then Tanika, great question. Tanika says, Zadia said that she was going to choose Dante. So what was that about? Nym looking like a fool. Y'all see him staring in the distance. He can't even look at the hostess asking the questions. He can't even look at Zadia. Can't even look at Dante. He just looking out in the distance because the people know that you were the consolation prize, but you don't want to talk about it. So she says, well, I was leaning towards that direction of choosing Dante, but what that whole situation allowed me to do was to skirt, and God allowed me to choose what I actually needed, which was Nym. His personality is much better. Yes, Cassandra, look at the lips. His lips are pressed. He's uncomfortable. So Zadia wants to explain this away by saying that basically the argument that she got into with Dante and Dante choosing Aisha was a blessing for her to go ahead and choose Nym. And I have to say, Zadia, you did a real good job of tying up that story and making it look real cute for somebody that's as foolish as Nym. But for us over here, we know that you were going to choose Dante. We know that you were going to choose Dante. You were upset because Aisha didn't meet your credentials of Brown Girl Squad pretty. And you didn't even see it possible for him to choose Aisha over you or have Aisha be number one. So you were upset. You chose Nym because he was going to ride for your foolishness regardless. And it wasn't until that moment where you were rejected that you decided to lean on Nym. And Nym gonna sit there with his lips perched the whole time, upset. He don't want to talk about it. So I'm just like, okay, good. We also find out that Dante and Zadia have talked since the situation, and she's apologized for her part in it. So she says again, she shouldn't have done that and she shouldn't have touched him. And that was basically the end of that segment. So I'm like, okay, Zadia, what a nice way to dead the conversation. You definitely know how to pull the cloak over Nym. He really had not a clue what was going on, and he didn't want to dig because he doesn't want to find out that you wanted Dante before him. So now, y'all, we can go ahead and move on to the final couple. And the final couple that they talk about is Aisha. Y'all, I ain't gonna lie. It was very hard for me to even hear what Aisha was saying for that blonde wig with the bridal piece in the back of her head. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The blonde hair with the two 6-inch, 7, 8-inch baby hairs hanging in front of both of the ears with the bridal piece was too much for me to even hear what was coming out of her mouth. Um, so Dante says that throughout their relationship so far, it's been plenty of highs and lows, but they've been keeping up with communicating with each other. To me, I was like, I wonder what the lows are. And I wonder how long it has been since the show ended to where y'all have experienced lows, which is normal in relationships. But I want to know what the lows are. Aisha also told us that, whenever he has a moment or he's going through lows, she gives him his space. And she says that makes him feel good and feel like he can trust her. So that really just made me wonder, like, what kind of lows does he have where you need to give him his space? I don't know, y'all. They also talk about marriage. Dante says if things keep going the way that it's going, the sky is the limit. And while that's cute, what does the sky is the limit mean? Yes, that's happening. What is the sky is the limit? Is marriage in your future? Yes or no? Aisha's been married before, so she doesn't want to rush Dante into that. Dante, I'm going to keep holding this against you. And I know people are supposed to say don't judge people off their past, but you have 3 repetitive cycles of the same thing. And that's starting families with women or creating children with women and not continuing the relationship. Now, I'm not going to say that makes you a bad person because he came off as a really nice person on the show. But that makes me wonder, like, is there some type of quirk about you? Is there something that you've worked through? Did it take you 3 baby mamas and 3 children in 3 different households to figure that out? I don't know. It's just a big question mark. That's all I'm saying. He seems like a nice guy, but I really just, don't know what his quirk is. So anyway, they are officially boyfriend and girlfriend. And they really were the only couple worth mentioning that made it through. Zadia and Nym, they seem like, y'all, honestly, Nym and Cornelius look like they under duress. Like, it's definitely a hostage factor to it. And that's why I'm not even going to claim them as, couples that have made it through the show. Cornelius got this girl speaking out, claiming that she was his mistress. And I don't know. Somebody done paid that girl for that, in my opinion. Somebody. Now, it might be Cornelius his damn self that paid the girl to claim that she was his mistress, because he kept saying that he was trying to find a way to end the relationship with Camille. I definitely could see that happening. Okay, I'm just speculating, but and I told y'all the girl's interview, the stories didn't. She had some inconsistencies. Something is given very much paid. Something is given. This is the plot that we're gonna give to make Camille mad, and maybe she'll actually leave us alone. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So we close out the episode with, does anybody else want to shoot their shot? And Tyrone, he shoots his shot at the host. And I'm like, all right then, that's fine. And then Tommy closes out, and y'all, we get next season next week. Let me read this comment from Ayana. Ayana says, unpopular opinion, but I don't think they have to want to be married right now. They don't. They don't have to want to be married right now. It hasn't even been a year. But what I want to know is Dante even the type of person who wants to be married? Does he believe in marriage, or is he more of a lifelong partner? Because I'm like, we don't know what his other 3 relationships were like, but being that he's had 3 children come of it, I'm wondering if any of them got close to marriage, or if that's something that's just not even in his mind. But anyway, Tyrone definitely shot his shot at the host. The host did a really good job of playing it off and was like, back to the show. But yeah, next season, y'all, they're going down Potomac River. They're still staying in the DMV, but instead of starting out with 10 women and 10 men, we get 7 women and 7 men. So I wonder if we're going to have a shorter season, or if they're going to send less people home. I don't know how it's going to go, but based on the flyer, they all looked a mess. Based on the previews, they looked a little bit better, which is usually how it happens. So I'm gonna be here next Sunday, y'all. We're gonna be talking about the new season of Ready to Love. Okay. So tomorrow, let's meet back here and we can talk about this scandal with Cornelius and his mistress. Okay. So I really hope y'all enjoyed this conversation. Thank y'all for joining me early in the morning. I see it didn't make that much of a difference. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jamie. Oh, your hair is cute, girl. That is cute. I went and tried on short wigs yesterday. So Jamie says, I'm so tired of this show being so male-centered that Corey special blew me. Say it again. Another thing, y'all, that's gonna be different this season is there's no casting special. So next week, whenever I meet with y'all and I talk to y'all about Ready to Love, we literally are just going to jump into the show, because the casting special is a waste of time. Okay. So y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all have a good rest of y'all's weekend. As always, if you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button on the way to 10K. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'm gonna see y'all tomorrow. Bye.